I've been preaching since 6 o'clock, 207-7070, 207-7070, that the boys, the Googans out there start giving. So I expect the phone lines are very busy right now as we go forward. And I want to also say, before we begin our discussion, that U.S. Assure believes so much in what the J Fund does. Right now, U.S. Assure will match donations up to $5,000 between now and 8 o'clock. So
terrific.
We're off and running.
That's great.
We got 5 in the bank.
Here we go. We got it teed up and we're underway.
Yeah.
The 15th.
15th.
Yeah. Which is the 15th Radiothon.
Yeah.
And the thing that excites me as as a former coach, as I start coming down here, is the passion and the commitment of the celebrities.
Yeah.
Starting with you, Dan. It's amazing how competitive you guys get during this day, and it's chalked up. I mean, guys look at their slot and they say, you know what? If we didn't win this year, and now we got to win. We got to win.
Now, Coach,
let's get it done.
Now, Coach, in all seriousness, sometimes they move the goalposts on us a little bit around here. I don't want to say anything, but we usually tend to come out pretty strong with our guys here. Our guys and ladies, our Googan Nation is strong, and then they change the rules on us. I can't imagine you going through something, a contest, an athletic endeavor, and halfway through you finding out that there's a different scoreboard. Sometimes we got to keep our eye on that.
Sometimes you need to know about that before you get started. Put your hand down in the dirt. You better know.
I mean, we're in here grinding, man. Those are shenanigans, Coach. Those are sometimes we got some.
There's people back there maneuvering how the results were made.
I'm not allowed to chew gum. But I used to love to watch the coach get a piece of gum in his mouth and get going on that gum as the refs start to do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to say this.
Yes.
We can interject in and out of here. I think. We got a call the other day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Being in
I know.
Being in Jacksonville and getting a call.
We did get a call.
It took me about 5 years to get a call when I was here the first time. And everybody wants to know why I was such a raving maniac.
Yeah.
We were playing, 14, 15 guys. It was, we used to play 11, but it got a little bit worse than that.
And that's fair, but that's not the only reason you were a raving maniac. I saw you coach in New York, too. You were also a raving maniac up there. Let me take you to a game in, what was it, Tennessee? End of the game there.
Oh, God.
You remember what I'm talking about.
Oh, God.
Hey, what was the worst? What was your worst diatribe ever to an official? Is there one that stands out? Is there one that you remember where you almost are seeing red, black, whatever, different color?
Yeah, the first 5 years here.
The whole time,
the first couple of years in New York. When, you think, and I'm wrong some of the time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And and it's, it's difficult because it's one of those deals where God bless the officials. It's not an easy job.
Right.
They'll come over and, the really good ones will tell you, hey, sorry, we blew that one.
Yeah.
John Perry was like that.
Yeah.
I love John Perry.
Yeah.
But he was like that.
He would tell you.
He would tell me.
Hey, I got that wrong.
Super Bowl story is the greatest story in the world with a holding penalty?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, John, I can't use the language here.
No,
but
please don't.
John, we are trying to win the Super Bowl here. Mm-hmm. They called a holding penalty on Kevin Booth. Okay, we're marching, we're booming, we're banging the ball, we're running the ball.
Okay.
And he comes over, he goes, well, wait a minute, I'll get the umpire over here too. We were holding off.
Mm-hmm.
The umpire comes over, and I said, guys, that was not holding. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll find out. And they run out and they get Wolfork and they ask him. They said, was that holding? He said, no. Wasn't holding, but you guys have missed so many on me that I'm taking it. I mean, that was that's a huge penalty at that time.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of those kind. But at least John would say, we blew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really don't want to hear that in the Super Bowl, however. But I understand. So listen, again, we're asking folks, Tom, tell people the origination, because most people know the story by now, but not everybody does. So tell people the origination of the J Fund.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you saying that and setting me up for that, because I think it's important. I like to go historical on today.
Right.
So that the understanding is where this all started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hope people get a better idea of the entire concept over the years, how it's gone, And the idea that, sticking to it, even in the early years when, the stories that you tell, our first one was I think we made $36,000. I thought we were doing really great.
Right.
I really did. I thought, wow, this is much better than I thought it was going to be. But the way that the J Fund came about is I was, after the 1990 Super Bowl, when we beat the Buffalo Bills over in Tampa, I took the head coaching job at Boston College.
Right.
My first year was 1991. My strong safety was a kid by the name of Jay McGillis, who was from Brockton, Mass. He was a tough, Brockton, the home of the world champ, the heavyweight boxing champions, tough town. Well, their nickname's the Boxers. So here's Jay's my starting strong safety. And I still remember when I first went to Boston College, I walked in the arena and the strength coach was conducting the off-season program. And I just, I didn't say a word. I just watched.
Okay.
They're coming around. But eventually, when we got the hold of the off-season program, it was time to weed the garden. So we did a little.
He just said time to weed the garden, people.
So here comes Jay around, and he'd run off the track and lose his lunch, and then run back in and get going again. So, redheaded kid, with the whole deal. So he's our starting strong safety, and we go to Syracuse in game 10, I think it was.
Okay.
And come back, and the trainer comes to me and says that I don't think Jay can play this week. I said, why can't he play?
Right.
He said, well, he's got a sore throat, and it looks like his glands are swollen, and he's running a little bit of a temperature. I said, well, let's get him to the doctor. It's Monday. Let's get that taken care of, and we'll find out whether he can, get over it by the end of the week or not. Well, it wasn't mumps or a college kid's disease. It was leukemia. And it knocked our team on their butt. They loved Jay.
Right.
Because Jay was just a great kid.
Sure.
He was an overachiever. He was a hardworking guy. I had all these deals where, the 6 o'clock run, I catch them. They miss a class, 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock runs, all that. Never.
Right.
Not this guy.
Right.
He was in class. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He never said a word. You'd hardly hear a word out of him. Okay. But he was highly respected by his teammates for his effort, his contribution, on and off the field. In the Jesuit community at Boston College, very, very highly regarded. But what Jay went through, the disease was ravaging.
Right.
He died July 3rd of 1992. Yeah. It was that fast.
And you got to know his family, obviously.
I got to know Jay was in 2 or 3 different hospitals. He ended up in Dana-Farber's where his final stop was when he had his bone marrow transplant. It didn't work.
Right.
And his brother, Mike, gave him the bone marrow transplant.
Wow.
It should have worked, but there's all kinds of stories about how the cancer, believe it or not, runs up into different parts of your body, and you can't find it.
Right. Right.
So anyway, to go through that, to watch what happens with the family, with the parents. The parents are devastated.
Sure.
When that news comes.
Oh yeah.
Now there's many McGillis siblings, but everybody runs to the bedside of the sick child.
Right.
Kathy, I'll never forget Kathy McGillis. She's working as an intern in a law office in Washington, D.C. She comes home and moves into his hospital room.
Wow.
Yeah, she was not going to let him be alone to have to go through this. Well, as it went on, and I'm watching, I've got actually it's David DeGuglielmo, who's the offensive line coach at BC now.
Okay.
He was my GA.
Okay.
He was my, So I'd say, Dave, get the car.
Yeah.
And he'd get the car, and I'd come down, jump in the car. We'd go to the hospital. And this went on all the way through the spring and what have you. But at one point, one of my linebackers, Mike Panos, came to see me. He said, Coach, we got to do something for the McGillis family.
Right.
I said, okay, sit down. Let's talk about it. He said, they don't work. They've stopped doing that, and the bills are mounting, and they've got a family. They've got other responsibilities. So I said, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do. So we talked. And in those days, in the spring, it was what they call a max lift day. So you'd have squat, power clean, bench. You'd have all these things that you did prior to your summer program before the end of the semester in the spring. So what we did was we decided to have, it was a lift-a-thon is what it really was.
Right.
And the players went out into the community and they got pledges.
We raised money.
To raise money for the purpose of giving it to the McGillis family.
Sure.
We came back in, we had our max day, we raised $50,000.
Great.
And at halftime of the spring game, we gave the check of $50,000 to the McGillis family, to help some of the expenses. Now today,
oh gosh,
it's quoted as the cost of a child having cancer and being cured, $833,000.
Wow.
How in the world does anyone really do that?
You can't.
But that was the starting point for me in terms of, in my mind, watching.
Planted something in your mind. Yeah.
Watching the family go through it. Okay. So that I knew that if I ever got a chance to give back, I knew how I would do it. Well, fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I get this call from Selden. I think he's a car dealer.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is. I never heard of. He said, you do know who the Jacksonville Jaguars are. Not really. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to pro football. Thank you very much. I got a job. But anyway, so when I got a chance to come to Jacksonville, I knew in the back of my mind what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know how we were going to do it.
Right.
Okay. And so I had brought some coaches with me.
Yeah.
One of the guys I brought with me was Fran Foley.
Fran, right.
Fran was my recruiting coordinator. I said, Fran, you're gonna come. You're gonna be in pro personnel, but you're gonna help me organize the J Fund.
Yeah.
And then Ernie Bono came around. So the three of us are in a closet about the size of that corner over there.
Right.
Okay. Deciding how we're gonna, start the J Fund Foundation.
Right.
Okay. And then, that's where it started.
Wow.
It started in a little closet because we had to put the auction items somewhere.
Yeah.
So we stuck them in Foley's office, So you'd open the door and
So we had a golf tournament, and that's how it started, and then it just grew and grew, and it is now it's such
it'll be 28 years.
It's unbelievable.
This spring.
And it's been, again, there's highs and lows, there's sorrows and joys.
Oh,
and you've dealt with so many of these families and, visiting them, and it would be remiss if, Judy was such a vital.
Judy was the door would open to the hospital room, and the room would light up.
Correct.
Because that was Judy.
Yeah, and that's Judy, the way she was. But even at the hospital, she was even in. It's like I always thought there's very few people in the world, Tom, that I look at and I see God. There's like a halo over their head, and she was one of them in my mind.
She was.
So,
she loved. She cared, and she was always kind.
Yeah.
She was not confrontational.
No.
She didn't want to go that way.
No.
So if there was a problem, she'd give it to me and leave,
But my point in bringing her up as well is how it became such a family affair for the Coughlin family. And then the Coughlin family and the McGillis family sort of, it's like an annual reunion, and the years have gone by, and we've lost a few along the way, but we press on. But there's younger ones coming up, and it's
we lost John a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Jay's dad.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that what happened there, and then keeping the McGillises involved,
right?
Really in the
right.
John was a pretty good golfer.
Right.
John would come down. He loved to play.
Okay.
So he'd get in with a group that was a pretty good group of guys and
compete.
But they came, and we loved them here.
Yeah.
And you remember way back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know who took it on as his responsibility to make sure the McGillises got here?
Who?
And got everything? Was Will McDonough. Will was the guy, And you remember the famous story of the first J Fund Foundation. We got one of our neighbors who had a boat right there on the Intercoastal. Just to take a Sunday ride to kind of say thank you to the people that came.
Okay.
So to take this Sunday ride, I forget who I sent out to get it, but they came back with some refreshments, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say it was 1996, okay?
All right.
Well, one of the bottles of wine was really a cherished bottle, 1996. And McDonough says something to the effect that, Coughlin, I got to hand it to you. This is probably such a memorable moment for all of us to share in this cherished bottle of 1996 wine. But anyway, that was the first year.
It was great.
Sandwiches.
They're great memories.
It reminded me when I was coaching at Division III.
Yeah.
The wives made the sandwiches
yes.
for the post-game show.
Yes. And always, I think I've told you this story before, and I don't know if I should share it, but I will anyway. Well, Will McDonough strikes something in me because, back in the 90s, man, the Jaguars, and hopefully, listen, it's still a huge deal. But, I mean, when you guys first started, it was all new to us, too, in the media side. So, Tom, we went live with Coach when they had the coin flip to decide who was going to get the first pick or second. Yeah. I mean, just every little thing.
Everything was big.
Was a story.
Well, look at the first 10.
Yeah.
The first 10 were like a Hall of Fame. I mean, their pictures were on the front page of the local newspaper. 10. They were off the street. They were street free agents.
So the point is, sometimes McDonough would have a story, and I'm like, how does he get that? And I'm young, and I'm learning, and so I go to Coach one time. You probably don't even remember this, but I'll tell you what you told me. It always stayed with me. But I go to Coach one time, and I had a quiet moment with somewhere. I was probably interviewing you, and I finished it up. I go, hey, let me ask you something. How does Will McDonough get stories? And you looked at me, and you go, well, he goes, when you give information, you get information.
That's true.
I said, okay, all right. Well, listen, we got to take a break, but we want to tell folks it's the J-Fund Radiothon, man. And we need you guys right now. And I hope the phone lines are busy. 207-7070, 904.
Dan, let's talk a little bit about that call to action.
Okay.
The call to action being $96, which represents approximately 96 kids in Jacksonville.
Every year.
Oh. Yeah, are diagnosed with cancer.
It's 96 families.
96 families are hit over the head with a sledgehammer.
And by the way, they're our friends, our neighbors, our family. They're right down the street.
The folks living next door.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
$115 is representative of the fact this is our 15th Radiothon.
Okay.
So that's just a starting point for folks if they would be so kind and gracious as to get involved and help us with these families.
Yes. So 904-207-7070 right now. Or you can also text GOAL in honor of the United States, GOAL. GOAL to 243-725. We will keep it rolling. We ask that you give whatever you can. And we thank U.S. Assure as well. They are matching donations up to $5,000 between now and 8 o'clock. So we appreciate it. Get those calls in right now, and let's rock and roll, and let's raise some money here on the Tom Coughlin J-Fund Radiothon here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.